Elden Ring easily has one of my favorite video game stories, and so you may be wondering, how is that possible? I know I've been referencing, talking about this video a little bit in my in my playthrough, but today we're actually going to delve into a little bit of why I actually would say that, even though some people may be like, well, there isn't really a clear story in this game. And yeah, that's kind of that's kind of the point of, what this is going to be about. Also, just want to mention, wow, this sky looks amazing with that red and the yellow colliding. That is incredible looking. Anyways, so first thing I wanted to talk about is, like, what do I mean when I'm talking about, like, specifically video game story? I'm not just saying, like, the greatest story. I'm talking about, like, video game story here. And I mainly got the inspiration for this from a video by the video essayist, I Am Error on YouTube. Her video titled, God, what makes a great video, or no, why is The Last was not the greatest video game? Oh my god, now I'm blanking on the title. I'll put the link to the video though in the description. But she's easily one of my favorite video essayists, so definitely go check out the rest of her videos. I Am Error. So, but she did a video talking about this because from the director, which was pretty famous among different, it got kind of a little notorious of a quote for the Last of Us TV show, or was it the writer? Or I think it's the director-writer said that he believed that Last of Us had one of the greatest stories in video games. And so people were like kind of sparking debate about that. Of like, what does it actually classify as a good video game story, and what classifies as one that's still just like a good story. So, kind of to like summarize parts of that video, from I Am Era, just to kind of like release my interpretation of some things. And I'll just be like actually live playing here in the background, as you can see. Like I said, I'm going to do these organized rambling videos. I'm trying this one to be a little less organized than the first one I did, because I think this might be a little bit interesting. But anyways, what are some examples, like, kind of like, or what I took away from it? I took away from it as it's a story that, like, can only really be told by a video game. And it's more of your experiences through the game and not necessarily just the story of the game. And some examples of this could be like very cinematic video games, such as The Last of Us or Red Dead Redemption 2. You know, that also has a lot of very gameplay as well. Or God of War. All these like super cinematic, great cutscenes and stuff. Like obviously, no one's going to say that those are bad stories. No one's obviously saying that. But though, what they also classify though as a great story, but they're not necessarily though what could be only told through a video game, because you know. Obviously, The Last of Us turned out very well, because it was very easily to adapt into a show, as was shown. I have seen the show, and it was very good. And they did a very good job on it. But that kind of begs the question of, like, if it's so cinematic, there's so many games that are always trying to strive for the medium of being, like, a movie or TV show, since so much of the industry views that as the, like, and so much of just people in society in general views that as, like, the superior storytelling method, you know? But some different ways of other approaching this would be something like Elden Ring, where it's like, there's not really a way you could turn this into a movie. I mean, you could do a cool action movie and stuff, but you'd really be missing just everything about the game. You'd be missing the gameplay, you'd be missing the exploration of going around this, like, giant world. Which I remember on my first playthrough. It's been, like, a long time since, like, especially on my first playthrough, it felt like, you know, when like you're a kid, I'm sure like everyone that's played video games as a kid has this experience of, like, you're so excited when after school to go back and play the game, or you're always thinking about it, it's always in your mind, you're dreaming about it, and you just can't, like, get away from thinking about it. And that, Elden Ring gave me that on my first playthrough, and I still love playing through it, you know, it's just like, you know, it's always the first playthrough you can ever get back, that kind of stuff. But though, obviously, though, I still have it each time. As you saw in my previous playthrough, if you saw those videos, there's plenty of new areas that I'm like, whoa, that's new. And it's like, I have over 200 hours in this game, and it's a single-player game, too, to get 200 hours in. I mean, it's like, I know it's not just single-player, there's multiplayer. Which, I mean, most people here are just here for the most people that play the game aren't just for the multiplayer. But, I mean, maybe some are. But I haven't really engaged in that much. So for me, though, like, that's still a lot. And I still want to keep playing this game. I want to keep exploring this amazing world. And that's just like, you can't capture those feelings. And it's really about the stories that, like, you end up creating in a game that are really the biggest ones. Like, I can think of, like, different stories of, like, in, like, Battlefield 1's another great example of, like, a nostalgic. It's not like, you know, when you're doing the multiplayer, there's no story. But, though, it's all the stories that you create that are uniquely yours, that you can, like, remember. I can still recall back in middle school playing with my friends on, like, empty Battlefield servers and jumping in planes, and I'm always trying to get the Tank Hunter class because it was stupidly broken on the Sinai Desert map. Like, I still remember that, and that's been, like, years now. And I don't even, like, necessarily talk too much to those people anymore. But, like, I still remember that. And it's things like that that really create, like, the greatest stories. And, again, obviously, the cinematic and story ones are great as well. But to just say that one game specifically has the greatest story ever, especially when it is so cinematic and trying to copy the movie formula, you know, you kind of gotta, like, look at some other things. So, I wanted to kind of talk about Elden Ring in particular, I guess, because I remember this video kind of talks about it in general, and that's not really exactly what I'm going to go into, because she does so much better of a job than I could ever do of talking about this. I love talking about this topic, but I do so much better of a sorry, I can't help you right now. But, so I'm just going to be talking more about, like, why I think Elden Ring fits that so well. And yeah, part of it, like I was talking about, just the world exploration. Wherever I'm going, anywhere, you can just, like, look around, even just standing here. There's so many points of interest, and there's nothing telling you to go anywhere. Like, that's one of my favorite things about this game. As you can tell, this video is probably also just going to be, like, gushing about how much I love Elden Ring. But I'm going to keep it more to the video game story part of this, this video, and not just my playthrough. I probably talked enough about everything. But though, it's like, you have everywhere, all these different points of interest, like, what are those ruins over there? Also, I'm using the top of my helmet as a pointing, like I did the playthrough, so just, that's what I'm pointing at. Like, all those ruins over there, this massive gate, you can see Stormville Castle up there, you can see the Giant's, forge up there, the Urge Tree, which is always your ultimate goal, this tower thingy, you don't know what that is. Dude over there, these weird swords, like the ruins, forest, big swamp. There's so many points of interest and nothing, like, tells you to go anywhere. I remember, especially my first playthrough, I just wanted to check out every single thing that I saw off in the distance. And I did, for the most part, pretty much went everywhere I saw. Especially, like, one of my favorite areas was, like, in Liurnia. I know, especially, like, when I reached Liurnia, there was so many different places that I was, like, looking around, like, whoa, I want to go there, I want to go there. There's, like, nothing told me to go there. There's no side quests, no main missions told me to go anywhere. It's just like, I simply want to explore it. And also, you know, on top of that, that showed how good the exploration was. Most of the places you end up exploring, if I'm being honest, don't usually give you that useful of, like, a reward, or the reward just doesn't apply to you. Like, you know, I'm doing a light armor blade Millennia build here. Magic stuff doesn't help me. It doesn't apply to me, like, at all. Let's see if we can find a good area on layer I need to look around. Like I said, that stuff doesn't really, like, apply to me all that much. So it's like, but though it's still, like, the sense of adventure, the sense of exploration that, like, you just looked at something and it was like, yeah, I want to go there. And nothing was stopping you. There's no level cap stuff. There's no walls. And yeah, there's, like, obviously it's going to get harder as you go along because it doesn't level with you. So, obviously there's that kind of wall you can hit, but you always push through it. I remember when I first went into Caelid, I accidentally took a teleporter over there. I'm pretty sure most of the people who have played this game have taken it, the one, if they know what the one I'm talking about. There's, like, a mine down here somewhere. And it teleports you over there. And I was like, oh, this is not where I was supposed to be. But, you know, there's nothing blocking me from going everywhere in the map. It's just, you know, how difficult do you want to make it on yourself? But everywhere you go, you always get the runes, which is really the biggest thing, is leveling up. Like, obviously, items are important as well. But obviously, you kind of have to know where to look for the items. So, every exploration you go to is always going to be rewarding in some way. Even just the feeling of, like, whoa, I went up there and checked that out, or oh, I checked that out. I remember that was like a big one. Was the I think it's the Belfries I'm looking at. Oh no no no, that's the on top of that's where you go for Ronnie's quest I was talking about after I defeated Estelle. Takes you up there. I remember when I was first playing through, I tried so hard to get up there because I was like, what the frick is up there? That looks important, it looks cool, but you can't get up there unless you use that teleporter and go through Ronnie's quest line. Or you don't have to go through Ronnie's quest line to get up there, but like I just wanted to go up there, and I took like I spent forever trying to like run all the way over here, run all the way over here. Am I getting attacked? I am getting attacked. Um, and yeah, so that's definitely a big part of it. The other thing of the story and stuff that I think is just great in Elden Ring is like the main moral takeaway from the game that you always get is just the idea of like no matter like the just how satisfying it is to go up against such large and tough enemies and then eventually know you'll come out on top if you just, you know, you keep trying hard enough. It kind of teaches the thing of like never giving up, and it's just so satisfying. But like that satisfying, which like that's the biggest, honestly, that's probably the most satisfying part is the exploration and then defeating these tough enemies. And again, like you can't really get that in any other medium. If you read this in a book, you wouldn't really get that same satisfaction of trying over and over. You could read about a character trying over and over and over, but you'll never actually like fully get that as you do in this game. Or if you saw it in a movie, is like you just can't capture. It can maybe be more cool and cinematic and, you know, more put together in a movie than, you know, me rolling around 20 times, dying at 200 times, you know, like constantly doing this all the time against a boss. You know, it'll probably look a little bit more cooler in a movie, I'll admit. But you can still have some cool moments in this game for sure. But it's like that feeling you like, which this is the game is one of the games that have given me the most feeling of like that accomplishment and that satisfaction. It's very definitely hard to capture that. Uh, and then yeah, I also just love exploring the ruins and trying to like figure out like what was here, what was the story here, what happened here. Which this game is a lot more vague on that type of stuff. Like the most lore stuff you can get in this game, which I also love how the lore is told to you, like because there's no, like, there's the story of, like, oh, you need to become the Elden Lord, go up to the Erd Tree, you know, all that type of stuff. But that's not necessarily, like, a big, huge main story, you know? There's some cool characters, like Melena's cool and stuff. But, you know, it's not what most people consider a cool story. Most of the story you're going to get is the lore of the world. Which I'm not going to go into the lore stuff at all, and I didn't even put in most of my playthroughs. If you're curious about, like, lore stuff, definitely check out, Vatu videos. He makes amazing, incredible lore videos, even if you don't even play Elden Ring. I mean, I would recommend this video. They're so entertaining and just so cinematic and so well done. That's, like, more lore and story stuff. And I love the lore in this game and how it's told to you so cryptically. Like every single character talks to you as as you are actually part of the world, you know. I remember when I first played through this, especially like at the beginning area when you talk to the Vare, the guy with the white mask that I killed instantly because he calls you maidenless. When when I first talked to him, like he starts talking about like all these random things of like, oh, let Side of Grace guide you, and like, oh, you gotta go to Stormville Castle, or like when Melina first shows up, when you fall down from the Church of Anticipation. Like, she's like, oh, this must be the Tarnished trying to go get the Elden Ring. Like, you know, it makes no sense when you're first playing through. But then you slowly, as you go along, if you want to, it's not necessary to piece together the lore and story. You can start, like, picking out these little bits and pieces, and everyone talks like they're in a freaking Shakespeare play. But you still, over time, do pieces. The reason why I'm here is this guy is, like, the one character that tells you, like, the most lore just straight up. That's, like, his whole point of kind of being here. He kind of just informs you of some general lore stuff, but then even that's confusing. He talks about like Renala and Radagon and the secret of Queen Marika and Radagon and some general stuff like that. And what this place is for, the Church of Vows and things like that. And like all that stuff's amazing, but that's definitely not like I loved exploring the lore and stuff, but like the main thing was just like the feeling of just getting to explore every single area. even if there was ultimately nothing there, even if there's no notes there or things telling you what's there. It's just the environment. There's so much environmental storytelling that they do really well. Like, that was one of my favorite parts of playing games such as Fallout 4, which is probably my favorite of the Fallout games. I've also played New Vegas. I know most people say New Vegas is favorite. I just can't handle the fact that you can't run. It just bothers me. But, that is probably a talk for another day there. But in Fallout 4, though, I love just going, or games also, similar to like Skyrim and things like that. But Fallout 4 was one of my favorites because I love post-apocalyptic stuff. I also love fantasy, which is why I also loved it in Elden Ring. But like Fallout 4, I loved going, like the main story, nobody cares about the main story. Some of the side quests are good. Really, most of the stories, couldn't care less about. But though, I loved just going to some ruined, abandoned building and just exploring it. Like, just seeing, finding the notes, finding computer terminals, finding bodies, finding, you know, whatever was there. And just figuring out, like, what was here before the war? What happened to everyone? Where is everyone now? Like, and I just love that so much, of just finding your own stories. Nothing actually straight up told to you. I love that kind of stuff. And Elden Ring has stuff like this. These things that tell you about these, like, parts of the war were also, again, very cryptic. Um, as you piece together the lore, you start piecing together this stuff on your own. There's no cutscenes that explain to you all this in-depth lore, which the lore in this game's crazy in-depth. Which is why I'm not going into it at all and just pointing over to about a video for that stuff. But I think that just, like, adds... There's no, like, whenever I say that Elden Ring is one of my favorite stories in a game, it's not like it's one specific big story. It's all these little pieces that all piece together to make this great story that is Elden Ring. It's your journey to the Erd Tree to become the Elden Lord. It's your trials, your difficulties, your way you found the lore, especially on your first playthrough. Like, just go in completely blind, don't look up anything, don't do anything. And it's just, it is your way of approaching things. And I also love the ability to approach an obstacle any way I want. Like, if I find some enemies, I can... I mean, you know, mostly because, like, you approach them depending on how your build is. But that's the choice there, is how do you... what kind of build do you have? You know, obviously these guys are weak enemies. But I have a melee build, so I would run in there. But then there's so many different types of stuff that you could do. I mean, just... I know I've showed before just how many, like, all these weapon arts, all these swords and flails and whips and spears and hammers and bows, all different types of arrows, shields, armors. Like, there's so much choice for how you want to approach every single situation. There's also so many spells in this game. Like, that's where you get the pretty much choice in combat and how you approach a situation. And one of my favorite games that really showed that as a good example, it would be Prey. The 2017 Prey, not the original one. Which is also one of my favorite games. I wouldn't be surprised if I end up doing a playthrough or at least a video talking about that game, because that is a whole nother topic of why I think that game's amazing and very underrated. I was just gonna pull up all the spells in this game. Because in Prey, there's so many different ways to approach everything. Just, like, from combat to how you even get into a room. Like, one example I always think about in the game is, it's, like, near the beginning. It's not completely in the beginning, but it's a little ways along, especially since you'll get a couple abilities by then. And Prey is like this game where, like, it's immersive sim. It's by Arcane. I mean, Arcane's great at immersive sims. Ignore Redfall. We don't talk about Redfall. I've not played it, but yikes, that looks bad. But all the other games, I have played through all the Dishonored games, Deathloop and Prey, and they're all amazing games and have very similar things, but Prey is my favorite. So one example of this is that there's this security room that you approach, and it's like, yeah, near the beginning, like I said. And there's different perks, you have different tools in the game, and there's so many ways that you can approach just this one security room. And I love games like that, or, I mean, all of those are Arcane games. Elden Ring, Fallout, kind of Fallout. I don't know, there's not too many different choices, I guess, to get into a place. But Elden Ring, there's different ways to approach a place. So, I took different shortcuts. There's usually multiple ways to get to places, and you have to find them on your own, because especially in Elden Ring, there's nothing telling you where to go. But so anyways, the security room, there is so many different ways you can get in, depending on how you want to get in and what you want to do. So there's a guy in a prison cell just beyond this room, and he, if you let him go, will give you the code to the door, and that's probably the most straightforward way to get in. But if you have the hacking skill leveled up, you can also hack the code to the door and get in that way. Or if you have the mimic ability, you can get a small object and go through the small, like, slit in the window and crawl, like, use the object to roll into there as the object, because you can turn into objects in the game. It's part of it, like the alien powers that you can get. Or you can use this Nerf crossbow gun if you have it. It's not actually like a Nerf gun, but it's basically what it is. And shoot the computer terminal. I don't know if you're able to do it from that angle, but you can do it in other places at least. And you can shoot the computer terminal. Or there's ability that lets you interact from a distance with the computer terminal. Or I think you can maybe force the door open. I know in some doors you can force it open. And it's just like there's all these different ways, and there's probably still something I'm missing. There's all these different ways you can just get into this one room that's not even like an important room at all. It's just a regular room. And there's nothing that like specifically makes it give you all these ways to get into it. It's just the game gives you all these tools, and it's just like, here you go, figure it out. And Elden Ring does a lot of that right at the beginning of the game. It just kind of kicks you out of that place. Oh my god. Oh, I can't look at the map because I accidentally got in combat. Where you like first come out into the world. All the way over here where I started the video. This building. And it was just like, here's the whole world. There's a little tutorial cave area that you can go into that teaches you the controls. But besides that, it's just, here's the world. Go. There's only the only guidance that you have is just the guidance of grace. The little tiny lines that go out from the different sites of grace. As you can like also see them on the map as well. All these little lines pointing you to where you should go next. But like that's all you really have is just this little guidance of grace, and that just shows you the main route to go, and the fact like the most direct route, and which is useful. Obviously, you obviously want some general guidance of where is the ultimate goal, for new players and stuff like that. But like this is it. It's just a line pointing in a direction. Nothing specific over there. It doesn't actually tell you what is actually over there. There's nothing specific on the map telling you where you'll end up if you follow this. It's just go that way. But you could also go that way or go that way. Obviously there's a cool giant scary mountain over there. But it's like none of these point over there. You have to go over here to get pointed over there. So, and then again, those would just help with like navigation for like brand new players. Since obviously there's so many ways to go, it's definitely easy to get lost. But though, I mean, there's no such thing as getting lost in this game though. It's all exploring. Let me see, what else did I wanna reference in here? Or did I cover all my points of why I think this is one of my favorite video game stories? And also, like, another big part of I Am Era's video is like the impact that the game's stories, or also not the ones that are just told to you, but the ones that you interact with it. And obviously, this game has had a big impact on me still, because I always talk about it and gush over how much I love the music, I love the art style, I love the difficulty of the enemies and the feeling of overcoming it. I love, well, everything that I've been talking about so far in terms of that kind of stuff. And the stories that I've created, I just always think about this game. That's one of my favorites. I have the vinyls for the Elden Ring soundtrack. I have 2 disc plates, which are like metal posters, that are Elden Ring, or at least like Elden Ring themed. Probably get more stuff eventually. But it's just one of my favorite worlds to explore and just run around. I love every playthrough. And it's just my own stories. There's no central storyline to keep guiding me through. And I think that's another big part of it too, is like, You know, if this game had cutscenes, had a general cinematic story, such as The Last of Us, God of War, you know, etc., etc. I feel like it'd be a lot harder to do so many subsequent repetitive playthroughs like I do with this game. Well, I've done 8 playthroughs so far. In the span of like over 200 hours, obviously not like all back to back necessarily, but each one I always find interesting. Each time I'm always still excited to play this game every single time I play through it. I look forward to it each time. And I think it's the fact that like it's your own stories that you're creating stuff that it doesn't end up getting old. That it can keep going. Uh yeah, I think that's everything I kind of wanted to say. I rambled for a little longer than I was expecting to ramble for, but you know, that's fine. Um, yeah, so like I kind of mentioned in the beginning, I mentioned before, this organization rambling, I was trying to make into, well, yeah, more of a rambling. I was clearly rambling a lot more, and I think I kind of like this a little bit more. Personally, you guys can let me know. You can check out the first organized rambling I did with Dead by Daylight being one of the best asymmetrical horror games. Which that one I actually wrote like a full script for. This one I just have like bullet points for. But that one I actually did a whole script for. And more organized. I was voicing over the game. This one just in the game, kind of running around. I might next time just maybe record the gameplay and then do my organized rambling over it. But though I find I can always talk so much easier if I'm doing something. Like even though I'm just kind of like running in circles, you know, I'm not really doing much. I find that just so much easier for me to kind of just like ramble about, because especially whenever I'm playing with friends or whatever, I find it so much easier for me to like focus my thoughts on the game, if I'm just running around or playing the game for whatever reason. Might not do that with every game, because this game, you know, I can kind of go to quieter areas and not get distracted. You know, obviously something maybe like the Dead by Daylight or something might be a little bit more difficult, because I'm not very good at talking and multitasking, but I like doing something, so this at least easy for me to talk. But though, if you guys would rather have like see more like actual like regular gameplay in the background rather than me kind of just walking around or doing something more random, then let me know. Just experimenting with some stuff. But I think though this yeah, this does kind of fit a little bit more what I wanted with the organized rambling part. Because I love to just gush about a game or a topic and just ramble about it. And I can do this now for a video, so you guys can listen if you want, instead of forcing my friends to listen to my ramblings whenever I start rambling about something, so, and boring them. So hopefully this will be a little bit more interesting. But I kind of wanted, I thought this would flow a little bit better, and also it's a little bit more simpler to make. Because I'm not a big fancy editing person, nor am I a script writing person, so I think it kind of goes a little bit better into some of the ways I talk about things, at least. But definitely let me know what your guys' thoughts are. Do you like this style, or should I try going back to the other style, or should I do some sort of like in-between blend? Just experimenting, just trying out, you know? But yeah. Try and go over to the edge here to get a cool overlook. I can't really see much, it's very foggy. Oh well. But yeah, I think I think that is everything I wanted to say about why I think this is one of the best video game stories. And I will see y'all later.